Your voice it thunders, the oaks start twisting, the forest sounds with cedars breaking. The waters see you and start their writhing. From the depths a song is rising. Now it's rising from the ground. Holy, 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 holy Lord. The earth is yours and singing. Holy, 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 holy Lord. The earth is yours. The earth is yours.
Little hands, shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear their hearts beating. I know my God
With some patience and some time, you'll see it grow and grow. Stretch your arms up to the sky, and like a bird you'll learn to fly and grow. Some fall upon the rocky ground. Does anyone hear when they cry out? Some fall upon a bed of thorns. Guess you can't help where you're born. Lord, pick them up with your hand, place them in the good land so they can grow and grow. Stretch your arms up to the sky, and like a bird you'll learn to fly and grow and grow. Let your branches spread and bloom from that seed inside of you. You'll grow, and with some sun and with some rain, a little shelter from the pain. With some patience and some time, you'll see it grow and grow, grow.
Well, good evening, family of Covenant Presbyterian Church. How is everyone tonight? Full? Well, good. Well, what a beautiful video and what a beautiful opportunity to see the fruit of the children's ministry here over the last year, and how exciting it is to think about what the Lord might do in our midst this coming year. And so thank you all for being a part of this training. Thank you for coming, and I know that so much more is involved than just this training as you pour your lives into these very precious ones. And I want to thank you all for your service to the church and ultimately to our King. I wanted to read and start our time off with just a brief word from the Lord from the book of Deuteronomy. It's from Deuteronomy chapter 6. You'll be probably familiar with it, but it says this. This is Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You will bind them as a sign in your hand, and they will be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. I share that word with you this morning, or this evening, for two reasons. The first one is just to think about the importance that God places on teaching our children. So that verse in verse 4, that hear, O Israel, it's called the Shema. It's kind of the cornerstone of our theology. The Lord is one. He's our Lord. And then from that, we get the greatest command, Jesus tells us, that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your might. And so from that, this is the basis of the whole Old Testament and then the New Testament. And right after right after Moses gives these words, he tells us he commands us, in fact, to teach them diligently to your children. That's the next thing that the Lord does, is he tells us that we need to teach our children. Before, in fact, we start talking around the house about them, and before we walk by the way, or before we talk about them lying down and sitting up, the importance gets placed on sharing them with our children. I think that's kind of significant. It tells that the Lord's heart is for us to teach and to train our children. And so you're a part of that. You're doing that. And the second thing that I wanted us just to reflect on for very briefly is that the Lord focuses on us teaching them. And that word teach is a little bit unique. It doesn't mean, as we often think of methodologies, in the Hebrew it more refers to the persistent insistence of God's word, telling them again and again and again and again about what our focus is, to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, strength, might. So I want to encourage you that if you're especially new this year, and if perhaps you're feeling a bit anxious about what you might be doing, or maybe you're doing this again and wondering how you're going to make it fresh and new, the Lord doesn't tell us that we need flashy PowerPoints or some new teaching technique or methodology. He simply tells us to tell them to share his word with them again and again and again. Keep it forward, move it, and direct them towards the Lord in that. And so just remember that the change in our children's lives is not our responsibility, it's the Lord's work as we diligently share his word with them. And so with that, let's open with a word of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you for our church, for the people that you've called to serve here at Covenant Pres. We thank you for the opportunities that we have to build our lives upon your word and to think about how we might share your word and share safety and all sorts of other practical issues about our children, how to love them well. We thank you for the many that you've blessed our church with. And Lord, as we thank you for all of these things, we thank you most for your Son and his love, and for the ways that he is our light and life, and for your Spirit which changes hearts, that partners with us. So Father, we ask that you would be with us during this time tonight. Remind us of why we're here, because of your calling in our lives, and give us attentive minds to listen and retain well all the things we must learn to care for them. We do pray for this semester. We pray that you would change hearts and lives of our children. We pray that you would open any heart that doesn't know you, that comes to us, that they would know you and love you and serve you. And so, Father, bless this time and lead our discussion even now. For we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. And before I pass it off to, I think, Holly, I just want to take a moment to recognize those who are teaching for us tonight. And so, Holly, we want to first of all thank you for all that you've poured into this. This has been a major undertaking for her. And so could we show our gratitude for her and for Diana, and thank you for what you're going to be teaching, and for Adine and Doug, thank you as well for sharing. And I also want to especially thank those who are serving and laboring in the kitchen for us, and what a wonderful meal. I hope you're full and encouraged by that. Let's thank them as well. Thank you for your service. And so, Holly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you all so much for coming. Look around. This is tons of people that are affecting our church body and our children. I'm so excited to have you guys all here. I hope you got to see the video that we watched a couple minutes ago. Isn't that the cutest thing? Kristen put that together for us, the Talos. She did a great job. Really appreciate you doing that. Woohoo! She's now our resident video person. Okay, before I begin, we have some notebooks or folders that somebody did not get. So if you are missing, don't have a folder, just kind of raise your hand and I will get it to you. Anybody? Tammy, okay. Thanks. Okay, So inside the folder, yours is going to be different. There's two different colors, blue and green. Blue is for Covenant Core. Green is for Sunday School. Inside each of those, you'll see an agenda of what we're doing tonight. That's changed up a little bit since I printed it out just a little bit ago. And that's all right. And then also you'll see in Covenant Core, Sunday School, you have already filled this out, but it is a child protection policy. But Covenant Core, you have this in there because I have not given this to you yet. So if you'll read that over, and at the very end, it has a place to sign and a date. If you'll sign and date that, and when you're done with that, if you would give it back to me, that would be awesome. If we can do that tonight, that would be even more awesome. Let's see. Okay, so I think that was Covenant Core. You can kind of go through your folders. You'll see which class you're going to be teaching, if you don't already know. Surprise! And then also who you're going to be teaching with. So you can start right now, tonight, before you go to bed, praying for those teachers that are going to be with you teaching. And then you'll also see a list of who we can anticipate being in your class. And you might want to get down on the floor and start praying. No, I'm just kidding. No, I am really excited. We have a great group of kids Sunday, and then Wednesday night. We have almost the same number of kids on Wednesday night as Sunday. That is amazing. That means the kids love to come because this is our philosophy here. We want to keep them safe, number one, because if they're not safe, the parents aren't going to bring them back. Number two, we want to have fun with them. Okay, and Wednesday we can do that a little bit more than on Sunday. We do a lot of fun things with them. Our very first week, which is next Wednesday, in case anyone was wondering. Next Wednesday, teachers, you better be here. And we are having a slip and slide party out on the hill, so it's going to be a lot of fun. If your kids don't normally come to Covenant Core on Wednesday, please bring them. It really is a lot of fun. And they not only have fun, but they learn, okay? They learn lots about theology and Bible verses and all kinds of stuff. So make sure they come on Wednesday as well as Sunday, if you can squeeze that into your schedule. So those are our three things that we really try to hammer home in the children's ministry: having fun, being safe, and learning God's Word and learning to love Jesus. Tonight we're going to talk a lot about safety, and I want to just give you guys some practical ways that we can be safe as teachers, that we can have children that are safe, and just some real practical ways. I'm going to go over 2 ways, and then I'm going to hand it off. So I'll just go ahead and get started on that. I want to teach you about safety in the classrooms as well as in the bathrooms. So those 2 areas are my expertise. Anyway, so classrooms. If you haven't been upstairs yet to look in the children's wing, each of our doors have a window in them, and that is for your safety and for the child's safety. Okay, so that's in each of our classrooms, so that we can see in and see what's going on, and you can see out. And so that is one way that we are protecting our children as well as ourselves. If you'll look in your folder, there's a pink half sheet of paper. Everybody should have it, half sheet of paper. If you don't have it, raise your hand. This is real important. This is the first year that we're doing this. If you'll read that over, it just gives us permission to do a background check on you, and that is to protect you and to protect our children. So if you will read that over, I'm going to give you just a minute to read it over, sign it, and then when you're done signing it, if you'll just raise your hand, I've got a couple helpers that will help me collect them. So I really do appreciate you guys doing that. I've been working on getting that going for the last couple years, and I'm super excited to be able to have that opportunity to make sure everybody's safe. So if you'll do that, and then I'll just keep moving on. Are there any questions about the background check? Okay, awesome. Okay, so that was one thing. We wanted to make sure we did that. And then also, along with the windows in each classroom, I wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that when there's only one adult in the classroom, we leave the classroom door open. So no matter how many kids are in there, only one adult, leave that door open. That's for your safety and, again, the kids. If there's 2 adults in there, feel free to shut the door. Again, that's why we have the windows, okay? If there is only one adult, and this is real important too, if there's only one adult and one child, because sometimes they kind of straggle up there, especially on Wednesday nights and Sunday both, the kids that run super fast get up there first. And so if there's only one adult and one child in there, leave that door propped open and just stand in the hallway and just greet all the kids as they come, okay? That's just keeping you safe. It's kind of common sense, but I wanted to hammer that home to you guys so you know if there's only one child, stand in the hallway, talk to that kid, interact with him, but just make sure that you can be seen from the hallway, okay? All right. Discipline in the classroom is not needed very often, but sometimes it is. And discipline in the classroom is different than you may have done in your home. It's also different than you may have taught years ago. And so I wanted to kind of go over that with you for just a minute. We do not spank. We don't hit. If somebody bites, we still don't hit. If someone is annoying you, we don't yell at them across the room, or if they're doing something, we don't yell. And I say that because it's easy to do. When you get frustrated, it's easy to yell. Everybody knows that. And I want to just warn you that we have some kids that come in here that they are very sensitive to yelling. They may have been yelled at quite a bit at home. And so we want to make sure that we are not yelling at them. We want to show God's love to them. We want to enforce discipline in the classroom, but never in a yelling way that would scare them or cause them to cower. We don't ever want to do that. So if you get frustrated, take a little break, go to the water fountain, get a little piece of candy, something. But let's don't yell at the kids, okay? So no yelling, no hitting. What do we do? I mean, if this kid's acting out, let's make sure to put him kind of in a loving way. You know, if you're teaching, you can just kind of, some child is misbehaving, you can just go talk. You're teaching, you just kind of rub their back a little bit, just kind of, you know, just let them know that you see them, you know what's going on, and you need them to snap out of it and behave. So, so that's one way to do it. Also, the little kids, they do real well if you just kind of set them on your lap and sit beside them and just kind of put your arm around them, let them know you're there and you know what's going on. Okay, if that doesn't help, then we put them in a little bit of a timeout. We just kind of ask them to go sit in a chair behind all the kids so they're not distracting, and sit in a chair beside the adult. If they don't do that, then if they won't obey, you just help them out into the hallway, and then the person that is the hallway monitor will be happy to have them sit beside them for a few minutes and have a little chat with them. So that's how we do it. If the child still is not behaving and he can't go back in the classroom, he's just unruly, then we'll call the parent. But that's our last resort. We really do want the parents to be able to stay in Sunday school if at all possible. But that's our last thing that we do with the kids in the classroom. And we really do have some great parents that really stand up and help out. So if you do have a problem with the child, please make sure and tell the parent what's going on so that they can help you at home and just kind of reinforce what's going on. Be real specific. He's not sitting still during story time. He's not stopping talking during story time. Whatever he's doing, be real specific so that they can know exactly what to work on at home, because they really do want to help you out. Okay. So that's the classroom. Next is the bathroom. I'm going to be real quick with this. 4 years old and up. 4 years old and up. Our policy is if they have to go to the bathroom, open the door, let them go to the bathroom. The hallway monitor shows them where the bathroom is, which one's the right one. They go in there, they do their business, they come out. And we show them which door they go back into to go back to their classroom, because sometimes it can be a little confusing where they're supposed to be going. So that's 4 years old and up. If you have a child in the 3 years old and 2 years old, most of them don't know what's going on. They just know they have to go to the bathroom. So teachers, just take them by the hand, walk them down to the bathroom. When you get to the bathroom, say, here's the bathroom. Go on in there, go to the bathroom. If you need some help, I'll be right out here in the hallway, and I'd be happy to help you, so just call out. So you need to tell them that every time they go to the bathroom, okay? Be real clear, I'm right here. If you need something, let me know. If they do need something, if they need some help with a button or a zipper or something, and that happens a lot, they just call out and say, hey, I need some help. So you just turn to the hallway monitor, which should be right there. We kind of sit right there on the couches, so if you need anything, we are right there. So make sure you stop before you go in the bathroom and say, hey, can I get your help? You call them in, the two of you go in there, help them however they need it, washing their hands, whatever. And then when they're done and they don't need any more help, then you guys can leave, okay? But make sure anytime you have to step into the bathroom, make sure you stop and get the hallway monitor. That is for your safety. That is for the child's safety, okay? Any questions on that? Okay, excellent. All right, well, that is classroom and bathroom safety. That's our child protection policy that we've developed as a church. And we want you guys to love teaching, and we don't want you to be put in any situation that you feel uncomfortable or the child feels uncomfortable. And this has been doing a great job keeping us safe and keeping the kids safe. So again, Covenant Core, if you would take that out and read it over and sign it for me, and then just kind of leave it on the table there, and I'll come around and collect those. Okay, I think Diana Perrell is going to be up next. And actually, you know what? I'm so sorry. Doug, do you have to leave at 6:30? Is that right? Can we let Doug go first? Is that okay? I'm so sorry. Doug, you're up. We're switching it up, making sure you're on your toes. This is Doug McCarron, everybody. He has done a great job keeping our kids safe and keeping our church safe, really, and helping us to develop some really great emergency procedures. So he's going to talk to you for a few minutes.
Thank you. First of all, we have as a church an emergency plan if we have any type of problem. The only thing right now that we haven't completely approved, we're waiting to hear from the police department, is in case of a I hate to even think the word shooter or someone on campus. But so what we're going to start tonight was in each classroom behind the door there is a red bag. And in that bag, there are a rope, and I did this for Macalonis' benefit, a sheet for the age group. So if you were in your classroom and the alarm would go off, you take your roll, and usually there's a teacher and an assistant. The teacher would lead the kids out with the rope, and you play caterpillar if you one on each side of the rope, and the assistant follows them with the clipboard, and the clipboard of all the kids that were there that day. Our safe area is in the very back of the parking lot where the dumpster is. There's a wooden fence around it. You take them there. And I know when we have something is going on, some parents are going to get really upset. They're all going to be racing to the kids. Don't argue with them. Rather than argue with them, say, hey, help us, come with us, walk with your child, because the alarm that's going off will not turn off until the police say it's all clear, okay? And it is very noisy, somewhere in the neighborhood of 95 decibels. And when you're in the sanctuary, it really gets loud. But in the Sunday school, you will take them down the steps and go out the door and get there. When you get there, you take row. Do it again. Make sure that the kid's there. And if the parents want to leave, say, no, stay here. Because the worst thing that can happen is everybody runs to their car thinking, oh, we're going to get to go eat early. Well, you're blocking the entrance for the emergency personnel coming, okay? You stay there until the all clear is given. And the all clear is given by the police department, or in our case, the pastor or whoever's on site at the time. When you get to that area, you have a sign. It says 2-year-old classroom. This is in the bag. 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, whatever. And you hold up so the parents will know where their children are at, okay? On your table, right in the middle of each one of your table, there is a sheet. It's a training sheet. It is very important for everyone to sign it. Don't put Mr. and Mrs. Each one to sign it and fill it out for insurance purposes, for liability, that we're training people. We will have additional training off and on this year. We had last year we had a fire drill come to the classroom. We don't turn the alarm on. we just tell the teacher we have to evacuate the class. They follow us out. We take them out, go out, walk them usually about halfway, and explain to them why we're doing it. That way, if it ever happens, you know, they won't be as scared, but they'll be scared when they hear the alarm go off. In each classroom also, there is a map, and on the back of the map shows the exit where you're going. The hall monitor, if you think, hey, I have a child that's in the bathroom, when you come out the door, you tell the hall monitor, I have a child in the bathroom. They will get that child out. They will close each door, but as they close it, they'll make sure that no child is in the classroom. They'll shut the door and then go down. Once you leave the building, you cannot come back in until the all clear is given. One of the biggest things OSHA fines companies for and businesses is people going back in to get a pocketbook. And you can drop a $6,000 fine in a heartbeat. So just do, if you're calm, the kids are going to be calm, okay? And the next area is a tornado or a severe weather alert. Our policeman up at the end of the street is in constant contact with their dispatchers, and also we have an emergency radio. And we will ring the bell, the Sunday school bell, if there's one in the middle of the class, and it will stay on. And a deacon and the floor monitor will go to each class. And here again, we do the same thing. You take the rope, you come down the steps, and rather than go outside, the long hallway in here, you have the kids, and like they do at school, you know, they get down with hands and head down. We do the same thing in the hallway. If the parents want to come and kneel and be with them, great. But stay away from the doors and stay away from the windows. We put them there because there's several areas. Now the nursery, for you that have the nursery, they're going to bring the kids into that little hallway because you've got 3 walls between them there. And if a parent wants to come in and be with a child again, encourage them to come in. But just tell them don't take the child, because once one starts, everybody's going to want to do it. Let's see. Try and get everything done in 15 minutes. There'll be some additional classes. We're going to have a training class at Links with the nursery workers next Monday. And I know you'll have a lot of questions. And if you'd like a copy of our plan, it's in right now being rewritten because we're putting now the nursery in there, and a plan for we have a plan for an unruly person already in our manual, but this would be one that has a firearm, and I pray that never happens. But that's 15 minutes. That's what she gave me. Anybody have any questions? Please sign these sheets. It is very important, so we can produce for the insurance companies that we are doing what we're saying we're doing in terms of training.
Okay, when everybody has signed the paper at your table, if you hold it up, we've got some people to come around and pick it up for us. So thank you, everybody, for signing that. We appreciate it. Thank you, Doug, for doing this. We really appreciate it. Every year he's protecting our children and our church family. Okay, now we have Diana Perrell is going to come up and talk with us here. We have just some precious children. We want to protect them health-wise when they're with us as well. And Diana is going to talk with us a couple minutes about that.
All right, do I have slides? Okay. All right, so real quick before the slides get up, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Diana Perrell. My husband Josh is in choir this year, but he previously did the 4th and 5th grade. We have 4 little ones. I teach the 4-year-old class on Wednesday nights. This is my 3rd year doing that. And my background is that I am a registered nurse, but I'm also a pediatric nurse practitioner. So I'm going to be talking to you about some medical emergencies that ideally we will never encounter, but we want you guys to feel knowledgeable and prepared. Are they? Oh, do I need to hit it? Sorry. Do I need to hit a different button? Okay. There it is. Okay. So the first thing that I want to tell you guys, I'm going to try and be brief, but I want to be thorough, is that we know that you guys are not medical professionals, and that is okay. I just want you to feel prepared for scenarios that may come up so that you can keep kids safe until a medical professional or the parent arrives. I feel like being prepared keeps people calm in emergencies, so the better I can prepare you, the better you will feel. Also, this is not any kind of professional training, just to be clear. Most of this is basic information that you could find online if you wanted to even. Okay, so just some general recommendations when we're talking about medical emergencies. Priority number one is to remain calm, both for the child who is having an emergency, yourself, and the other children in the classroom. This eliminates confusion, it speeds up response times, and it is also best to have specific tasks so that you know you are doing the right thing and you are not creating more confusion by being a little crazy during an emergency. So one of the ways we can do that is to each kind of designate a role in an emergency. In general, you have 3 teachers in each classroom. So we've kind of broken it up by what each person might do if an emergency arose. The first person would be the main teacher. This is the person who's going to stay in the room with the child. You're going to note the time that something started occurring. We're going to talk about specific events in a minute. But any type of medical emergency, you want to note the time the event started. There should be a clock in every room. You might have a phone, you might have a watch. But just to take note of that time and make sure you're using that same timepiece throughout the event so that we're not flip-flopping times. Minutes and seconds count in a lot of medical emergencies, so it's good information to know. And then the teacher is also going to be the one to get that clipboard that we've been talking about that is by the door. On those clipboard, it has information about the child, if they have some sort of disorder already, or if they have allergies, that's written often in red. And it also has the parent contact information. So as soon as something starts occurring, you would note the time and then grab the clipboard and go to the child. One of the other helpers is going to be the one to quickly and quietly remove the children from the classroom. This is for a number of reasons. We don't want too many people in the room as people are trying to come and help the child that is having an emergency. It can also be a little scary and traumatic for the other children, so it's best just to remove them to an empty classroom, distract them with games or a story, anything. So that is one person's only job. That might be the person who feels the least comfortable with medical scenarios, should be this helper. And then the second helper in the room is the person that needs to quickly go out into the hall and get help. Holly Lehman is generally out there. You also have a hall monitor out there. I've listed, I did not get the nurse on Sunday school mornings. These are nurses that are upstairs in that hallway on Wednesday nights. So myself and then Sarah Blackburn, we are in the 4-year-old class. And then in the 3-year-old class, we have Bethany Firth and Sally Forrester. Is she here? No, she's a registered nurse as well. And then on Sunday morning, if you're a Sunday school teacher, where is Lucy? Lucy Mantle's in the kindergarten class. So any of these people you could go get as well to come and assist you. If for some reason there's not a second helper in your class that night, you've only got 2 people, then the person who's taking the kids out just needs to grab somebody as they're taking the kids out, let them know something's happening in this classroom, please go get help. Those are going to be the people who go get the parents, call 911 if needed. They're just general assistants. Okay? So the 2 specific things we're talking about tonight are seizures and allergic reactions, and this is because we have children in our church with both of these conditions. So first we're going to talk about seizures. If you guys want, I forgot to tell you, there's a little pink sheet in your folders that goes over a lot of this. So just some background on seizures. It's a pretty small percentage of the population that has epilepsy, but in children it's more common than adults. So up to 1% of kids ages 0 to 15 will experience a seizure, and there's lots of different kinds, but the ones we're going to talk about tonight are just generalized seizures, kind of what you think of when you think of somebody having a seizure. And that is mostly because our 2 kids with seizure disorders do have those big generalized seizures, so we want you to feel as prepared as possible. The 2 kids in particular, and their parents have said they don't mind me using their names or anything, would be Tyler Heisig. He's in 5th grade. And then Aaron Creamer, who does the 4th grade class generally. So those two are the ones we're talking about in particular. So during a seizure, the basic roles that you will play if a child in your class has a seizure, number one, you're going to assign and assume those roles that we already talked about. Who stays with the child, who removes the other children, and who goes to get help. And you're also going to note the time that the event started. Especially with seizures, it's important. There are medications that the parents have on hand that they give after a certain number of minutes if needed. So it's very important that we know how long has this been going on. You would gently lower the child to the floor if they're not already on the floor. You would position them on their side. This is because they often cannot swallow during a seizure. So positioning them on their side would allow any saliva to drain out of their mouth. Support their head if possible. So if you have a light jacket, a towel, anything in the room that you could put under their head, our floors are pretty hard. So if we can support that head, if possible, that is good. Loosening any restrictive clothing. Hopefully they're not going to have any tight jackets on. They've probably been inside for a while. But if they do have something that seems to be getting tight around their neck or chest that would impair their airway, you would want to try to remove that if you can do that safely. And then one of the big things is to move any nearby furniture. One of our biggest concerns during a seizure is a secondary injury that occurs as a result of the seizure. So you'd want to move chairs and tables so that they don't hit those during a seizure. And then the last thing is just to stay with the child. There's not a lot of active involvement for many of you guys. There's nothing you can do to stop a seizure. It's mostly just keeping them from injuring themselves further and staying with them until help arrives. Things that you do not want to do during a seizure. You do not want to ever put anything in their mouth, including your hand. Do not reach into their mouth. Do not put anything in their mouth. I think they're like old wives' tales that say, oh, they'll swallow their tongue, they'll bite their tongue off. These are not actual concerns. You can do more damage if you put something in their mouth, or if you reach your hand in, then they could bite your finger unknowingly if the jaw clenches down, and then we've got another injury to be dealing with. So do not put anything in their mouth, and do not attempt to restrain them. You can't stop a seizure by just holding them very still, so don't do that either. And then if a seizure were to occur, there are things to remember and note if possible. Again, we know you're not medical professionals, but the more information we can give to parents when they arrive, or if one of these nurses comes, the better. So again, the time the seizure started, how long it's been going on. If there were specific things that were happening before the seizure started, maybe you guys had just been outside running around, lots of exercise, any like stimuli that might have caused it. Maybe you're watching a video that had some flashing lights or some loud repetitive noises. You can kind of take note of that. Any symptoms that happened beforehand. Some kids will kind of gaze off and become slowly more unresponsive. Some kids vomit prior to a seizure. So these are good information to have for when the parents arrive. And then if it started very suddenly, or if you noticed some gradual symptoms, those are all helpful to kind of take note of. So your primary goal during a seizure, again, is just to keep the child safe until help gets there. Care for the other children by removing them from that scenario. Provide for the privacy of that child. Often with a seizure, they do lose control of some of their bodily functions, and that can be kind of embarrassing, especially for an older child. So making sure that we kind of preserve that dignity, and to know that you are not responsible for giving any type of medication in this scenario, or even calling 911 with those two children in particular. They have very specific recommendations from their doctors as to when that would need to happen, and that is the parent's decision to make. You just stay with them until help comes. Okay? So we will move quickly into allergic reactions. Again, allergic reactions are a little more common. About 6 in 1,000 have food allergies. Most commonly we see peanuts and tree nuts, but there are definitely other ones. Initially with allergies, what you see is a skin type reaction. Those are the more minor reactions. You might see swelling, some redness, a rash, itching, and then those can progress into respiratory reactions in some cases where they're wheezing, they're coughing, they're having difficulty breathing, maybe their tongue is swelling, and those are the more serious ones. So in an allergic reaction, step one is going to be the exact same. You assign those roles, You assume those roles, and then you start moving. So somebody gets the kids out, somebody grabs the clipboard and stays with the child, and then somebody else goes to get help. The clipboard is very important in an allergic reaction because it will have that information on there as to what their allergies are. It also has the parent contact information. Next is just to help position the child in a way that's easiest for them to breathe, especially if they are experiencing some wheezing or coughing, and make sure that they're comfortable and not panicking. Especially with food allergies, you want to get the food away from them, but we do not want to discard it. We need to know exactly what it was. So throwing away wrappers and things is not going to be helpful. We'd have to search through the trash later. So get it away from them, but don't throw it away. And then, and we'll discuss this a little further, would be to give the EpiPen, if applicable. We do have some of those in church, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And again, you just stay with the child in this scenario. Things to remember during an allergic reaction. Again, the time is very important. We need to know how long this has been going on. Any symptoms that were leading up to it, that itching, redness, swelling, if they're having a cough or wheezing, and then any potential triggers. Were you giving a snack during your class that night? Was it homemade? Was it prepackaged? Were you outside and maybe it was an insect bite or a sting that could have triggered this? Any of those triggers are going to be helpful information for the parents. So medications for allergic reactions. We do keep Benadryl on site. It is in the first aid box in the nursery. There is liquid Benadryl there if we need it. Benadryl is generally used for milder reactions that would not involve any of the respiratory. So for itching, redness, and swelling. But this is something that we should really just let the parents dose and administer. This is not an emergency medication to be providing, so the parents really need to be the one to be handling that. But this is just good for you guys to know where it is, should you need to run and get it. The EpiPen in particular. So an EpiPen, if you're not familiar with it, is a one-time dose to be used for anaphylactic reactions. Those are those big reactions involving the airway, especially. A lot of people are a little nervous with them, so they have some concerns, but really the biggest concerns with EpiPens is just not having them or being afraid to use them because you think you might do it wrong. They are designed to be very easy to use by the common population. I think generally they say if you can read at a second grade level, you can do an EpiPen. So who carries them? And this is where things are really on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes the parent keeps it with them because it's not a very severe allergy, so the parent just holds on to it. Some older children, and when I say older children, even like a 7 or 8-year-old, could carry it with them at all times. And then some younger children, maybe they can carry it, they need it with them at all times, but they are not old enough to be responsible to really hold on to it. So, in those scenarios, we're just going to have to go case by case as to where that EpiPen needs to be in the classroom, if it needs to be with them. So with an EpiPen, this is a very basic understanding. There are instructions on your EpiPen. They even have talking ones now that as soon as you pop the cap off, it just talks you straight through it, which is pretty amazing. So generally, if you were ever in a scenario where you need to use an EpiPen, the parent is not there, you've got the EpiPen with you, and this is an emergency and it needs to be given, you would have the child sit or lay down to keep them still. You identify the big muscle in the thigh, like right here. You remove the top cap. There's no needle at that point. That just kind of engages the medication. Hold it with your fist like this, and you just press it into their leg. You press firmly until you hear a click, and then you keep it there for 10 seconds. So it's not just like a bounce and come right off. You hold it down for 10 seconds, and the general rule with EpiPens is if you give it, then you call 911, regardless. So again, ideally, you guys are never going to be the ones to give these kind of medicines, but if this situation occurs and the parent is not there yet, or you can't get one of those other nurses to do it for you, they are very basic to use, and they can be life-saving. So in an allergic reaction, again, your primary goal is remain calm, keep the child calm, take care of the other kids in the class, and get help immediately. And that is it. That's a lot of information. Do you guys have questions? Yes. It needs to be directly on the skin. So he asked if you would go through the pants leg. That's a good question. So that's, again, another reason that you would want to remove the other children from the classroom to preserve that child's dignity. Yes? Oh, yes. So he asked if you would need to remove the pants, if the EpiPen could go through clothing, and the answer is that you would need to remove that clothing so you can go directly onto the skin. Is there any other questions? Yeah. So we have the CPR certified list, and those are all medical professionals. There is an adult Sunday school class upstairs for that reason, I think, in case there's an emergency. But I don't know exactly who's in that, but I can look into that for you and see if there's any medical professionals in that class. Yes. Okay, so Christy Arbuckle is in that class, and she is a nurse. Is that right? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And if you have one of these kids that has these specific issues in your class, the most important thing is just talk with the parents, come up with a plan. You can talk with me or any of the other nurses as well, and we can help kind of develop that to keep the kids safe. All right. Sorry.
You did way too long. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So Sunday school, you already have this chart on your wall in your classroom. You probably walked past it a million times. And you probably haven't needed to use it, hopefully. This is for just emergencies. And anyway, it is Covenant Core. You already have this in your folder. It's just for you to see and observe. You will also have one up on the classroom wall so you can use in emergencies. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that it has every child that is in your class. It has listed out their parent's name, where the parent will probably be, and also any allergies that they have, as well as the parent's contact information. So anything the parent wants you to know, I have typed up in this thing so you can see if there is an allergy or if there is a seizure. It is marked in red. So if you don't have any red on there, great. You don't have to worry about any possibility of anything happening to your children. But anyway, it's there if you need to look at it and be aware of it. So that is there for you. All right, so we've talked about lots of different things that we, to protect us and protect our children. Now, Adine Vaught is going to come up and talk to us just a little bit about kind of classroom management and giving us some great tips on how to teach our children and to be the best teaching professionals that we can be. Thank you, Dean.
I'm the tail end, right?
You are.
Yeah, so, like I'm going to say 3 things and leave because I know you all want to go home. Well, first of all, I'm just going to say I've spent 37 years teaching, first of all in the public school system and then as a homeschooling mom. And you might think homeschool, that's just 1 or 2 kids. But no, I've been teaching academic high school level classes within the homeschooling community for about 12 or 14 years. So lots of experience with kids of all ages. And so what I want to do is give you some grades. I'm going to give you 3 C's and an E, which is just above an F. So y'all are going to lose your driving privileges, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't even have to take a note. Although you might, I don't know. Okay, so for letter C, the first C is content. And this kind of goes without saying, but I know how we all roll. We all do this. Know your lesson. That means look at your lesson before you come to your class and kind of have an idea what you're teaching, because looking at your lesson, like while you're standing up there in your classroom after Wednesday night dinner or, after Sunday service, is not actually knowing your lesson. And it says have a plan, and winging it is not a plan. Okay? It may look like a plan, but it's really not. If you don't make a plan, a few really creative kids will make their own plan for you. And really, I guess the only thing I would say is that we need to respect our children because they are brilliant, okay? They really are. 3, 4-year-olds, they are so smart, and their little brain is going like this fast, and I know my senior center brain is like, the wheel's not turning quite as quickly. And so if you have the plan and you are the leader instigating the plan, the chances that somebody else comes along and, takes over your plan goes way down. And see, everything I'm telling you tonight is so that you never, ever have to yell. You know, and what did Holly say? She says, well, send him out to the hall monitor. Well, I'm the hall monitor, so I guess I get to yell at him. No, not really. Okay, so anyway, you need to be the leader and have a plan. And so I encourage you to plan your lessons and to really put some thought into what you're doing. Now, something that might help you make your lesson more exciting is context. And we are contextual learners. In other words, everything we learn because we really want to. Okay? And that's why high school is so difficult for teenagers, because they don't want to learn geometry and they don't know why they have to learn geometry. But most of us, when we find out we want to, build a house or something, then we want to learn geometry. It's contextual. It relates to something in our life. So the more you can make your lesson relate to something in kids' lives, the more excited they're going to be about it. And so if you want to get creative, kind of think of it. I love Eric. Is he still here? Eric teaches that class where they go all around the world and they look at all the missions, and he's always in the kitchen making some sort of food, and those kids may never remember one thing he says, but they'll remember they ate some sort of African food or some sort of food from India or something. So that's exciting. I gave you an example. If I was teaching the first question in the catechism, what is the chief purpose of man? To glorify God and enjoy him forever. I would talk to the kids about what they enjoy and then show them how that's God. God made that. I mean, even video games. But he gave people the ability to create and think. I'm not a video game fan, but whatever. Okay, so anyway, you kind of get the idea. Go for it. Have context. The next thing is consistency. All human beings thrive on consistency. And believe it or not, you can have a consistently bad class. So that, the consistent thing that's happening in your classroom is that you get there late, there's 4 or 5 kids that are already tearing up the classroom, and then you go through about 20 minutes of sit down, be quiet, sit down, be quiet. And then, somebody's got to go to the bathroom or whatever happens. And this is all due to the fact that maybe you've never had a plan and maybe you've not set up a consistent schedule. And I know this sounds like really rigid, but really it's going to make your life so much easier. So if you have an idea that the first 5 minutes we're going to do this, or the first 10 minutes we'll do this, and then break up your class into sections and always have your sections pretty much at the same time. Actually, after about a month or so of that, kids are going to get the idea and they'll know what to expect. And see, just like you don't like it when there's a surprise in your life, your water main breaks or, something happens and you all of a sudden have to drop everything you're doing and go do something else. Kids don't like it either. It puts them on edge. And when they get stressed out, they aren't like us. We put on a good face. Or maybe we break things, but I don't know. But, they get nervous. They might go off on their behavior. They might cry. They might throw up. They might do a lot of things. And so if you are consistent and you give them that comfort of when they come to your class, they kind of know what to expect, it's going to make them much more relaxed, and it's really going to work well for you. So I said have a plan and a schedule. And I put my last little note there. It only takes around 20 seconds of dead time for a brilliant child to take over the classroom. And I've seen it happen because I've had it happen to me. Oh, I can't find that handout. Where's that handout? Where's it? Just a minute. I got to find my handout. And the next thing you know, especially if you've got little ones, because their wheels going a lot faster, they're all over the table, they're under the table, they're flopping on the floor, they're throwing things at each other. So you've got to really stay ahead of the game. Sort of like being on a train, and you're trying to keep it on the track. All right, contingency. What this means is that after you've made your plan and you know your lesson and you've got some really cool contextual experiences to make it real and you have a consistent thing, sometimes something else goes wrong. Maybe you will have a medical emergency in your class, or maybe somebody's going to pull the fire alarm, or, my favorite, Holly decides, oh gosh, we finally got that great guy to come and do the thing. And so surprise, surprise, tonight we're having a program rather than class. And maybe you're only going to have the kids for 5 minutes. So I'm picking on you, Holly. Yeah, it's okay. But the thing is, you should always have like a little emergency classroom plan, which means these are games or songs or arts and crafts or something that you can go to right away and rescue the situation. And you don't do these every single week. This is like your, ooh, hey, it's special week, you know. So I always have, whenever I do a class, I know exactly what I'm doing, but I always have a few other things. So if everything else goes wrong, I've still got these other things. Let's see. My last one is expectations, and I'm pretty old. So I came from a day and age where you were literally expected to sit and be quiet. You know, we still wore gloves and hats to church. And I know Miss Donna, where is she? She can relate to that. But, you know, that's just how we lived. And I'm also an avid historian, and children a long time ago knew how to sit still. So I don't know why our kids can't sit still. You might say it's their diet, but I say it's because we've lowered our expectations. So I like to raise that bar. I really do. And it's not like you don't want to raise it so high that they will never, ever even come close. But you want to smidge it up just a little higher than what you might expect because they can do it. And you see, when you raise the bar, you're saying to them, you are smart enough and special enough. You can figure this out. I know you can do this. I know you can sit for 10 minutes. I know you can. And, you know, for me, it's like giving them that challenge is almost like, yeah, I'm going to show you I can. I don't know. I really think that we have caused our children more pain because we've treated them almost like they're pets or something, like cats, and all our job in life is to hurt them here, there, and everywhere. And really and truly, they are young people. I mean, they're fully equipped with everything God's given them. And so we actually elevate them and bring them up to a level to say, you know what? You aren't an animal. You are a human being, and you can participate in this class. And I don't go through all that with them, but I just might say, hey, I know you can do this. You know, I know you can come in here and sit down and be quiet for just a few minutes and just keep encouraging them. It's self-respect and it's self-control. And actually, I also say this, keep your rules of the classroom simple and clear. You know, you can't have a 50-page rule sheet. Keep your punishments simple and swift, and there should be a consequence. You know, we don't have to call it punishment. We can call it consequence. But, you know, I might say to somebody, okay, I need you to be quiet. And if they're not quiet, and I've already done the thing where I've asked a helper to come and sit with them, or I've come and sat with them, and they're still being disruptive, I might send them out to the hall monitor and just say, you know what, maybe go take a little rest. And usually I know Holly's out there. I've been out there as a hall monitor with Eddie, and we just sometimes end up talking to him like, what you been doing this week? Sometimes we're just having a bad day, you know, and they just need to be removed from the situation. So keep that simple and swift. You know, this is the thing you never, ever, ever want to do as a teacher. If you don't sit down, sit down. If you don't sit down, sit down. Keep sitting down. I'm picking on you. But the thing is, that just, you are starting to lose it. They are starting to gain the control and the upper hand. And so if you just say to it, hey, one more time, and this is what's going to happen, and then you follow through with it, they'll learn, oh, he means business. You know, and it's not mean. It's not a mean-spirited thing. It's really just, you know, this is going to be good for you. It's going to be good for all the other kids in class, and it's going to be good for my sanity. So anyway, I think that is my point. When I talk about brief, I'm brief. Are there any questions? You know, I have taught for years and years and years. So if you are one of these newer teachers and you're like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing, and want to talk to me, or you know, talk to one of the more experienced teachers about ideas, you know, what could be fun, what could we do? I'm always open to that. So, okay. Oh, and I don't know if you know, but I'm your hall monitor Wednesday night. And you're telling me all the hall monitor things, like the medical things? I'm like, I'm just going to run and get the parent, because I'm not going to be administering any show.
No, you won't be. Good. Thank you so much, Adine. All right, real quick, I know some of you have to go to choir and some of you have prayer meetings, so I want to be definitely observant of that and cognizant of that. Real quick before we go, if you are new and haven't worked in Covenant Core, haven't worked in Sunday school, and you are new working with children and haven't done it for the last couple years, if you could stand up, we just want to praise the Lord for you. Come on. There you go. Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much. I don't know if you know this, if you looked around at everybody, but we got some single people here. We've got some grandparents here. We've got some couples here. And I just want to give the Lord all the glory for that. So we are super excited to have you working with us. And we're just a big family. So if you don't know somebody you're sitting next to, make sure and introduce yourself and pray for each other, because we really do. Each one of us need prayer, okay? Speaking of that, prayer, Pastor Eric, would you just close us in prayer? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate it.